Welcome to the Sovereign Career Hub. I'm your host, Carolyn Shepherd, and my guest today is Jonny Winn, AI and data strategist at the One Point, a Yorkshire-based managed service provider working with SMBs, enterprise and public sector organisations. He came to this role through 15 years in creative production, which I find fascinating, and a fresh MSc in artificial intelligence and data science. And he has just received news of his distinction from Hull University. He is new to his work, and that is exactly why I wanted to talk to him, because the most useful thing in a room full of certainty is someone who is still asking the foundational questions. Those questions like, what do we actually want to build? And where is the real opportunity? What are the risks that more embedded operators might miss? These are the things that I wanted to hear about. How somebody with an open mind like Jonny thinks when they have not yet been told how to think about it. Jonny, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me, Carolyn. That was a very flattering and warm introduction, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, you absolutely deserve all of it. And it was a lovely meeting when we were introduced by a mutual friend who sort of said you two should go for a coffee, and we took her up on that, didn't we? And we met in just near Hull, just outside of under the bridge, really, that nice coffee place near the bridge. It was very nice. I enjoyed that. And it was great. We just kept talking and talking. We both said it was fantastic to sit down with another person who kind of got what we were trying to talk about all the time. So I hope everybody will be able to feel that synergy that you and I share. I'm going to start by asking you a question which might sound quite strange, bearing in mind your deep technical qualifications. But I'm going to ask you anyway, because I always start the podcast with this. Where do you put yourself on the AI spectrum?
Well, so on the AI spectrum, it's a good question. I would say that I originally started probably when everybody else did, around 2023. So I would have regarded myself as an early adopter, using ChatGPT and bits and pieces like that, and other LLMs that were available. But yeah, where I place myself now, slightly further ahead. Now able to understand AI in a little bit more depth in the terms of the overall umbrella of what AI does, which I've gathered from the MSc that I've just completed. That's given me a good foundation of being able to model, being able to code in Python, and yeah, just I would put myself as a curious experimenter, really.
What number are you going to give it? Are you
On a
going to give it a number?
scale
Naught is zero, and 10 is amazingly accomplished.
I'd put myself probably at a modest 6.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That doesn't give the rest of us a lot of hope, Johnny. I was hoping you were going to say an 8 or something
Oh
like
yeah.
that. Well,
I
I
think
will.
if you're claiming sort of like near a 9 or 10, I think that's getting towards expertise, and I don't think
Yes, that's
anybody's
getting Ethan Mollick
yeah,
territory.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay,
I don't think anybody's an expert yet.
okay. Fair enough. Well, you have the MSc, so you've spent serious time inside the theory, and you're now stepping into the practice. So what I'm interested to ask you about is, where does your thinking sit right now? What does AI in business look like from where you are standing?
From my standing point, I think AI, it's an exciting time. It's a very exciting time for businesses. There's so much opportunity to become efficient, become more efficient, become more profitable in certain ways with the tools that are available. So I would say that I'm very interested in seeing how businesses use this. I'm seeing a lot of information on it now and a lot of detail of how businesses are progressing. I'm also seeing a lot of overwhelm. I'm seeing a lot of hesitation of using AI. I think we are still, even 3 years in quite an early adoption stage for most people, and there's not a lot of people that I think there is a lot of people that don't actually use AI at the moment in any way, shape, or form. And I think that's the exciting part now is what can we do for businesses? Where can we improve their workflows? Where can we improve their efficiencies? In part for me to be able to sort of like dip into that. I think what I've learned on the MSc is very deep technical understanding of how AI works. Not to go into too much technical detail, but machine learning, supervised and unsupervised machine learning, computer vision, being able to understand and categorize imagery using machine learning, and transformers, and lots of real technical stuff. But most people are in the world of Copilot, Claude, ChatGPT, and that's great and that's fantastic because The reality is that everything that I've learned on the MSc is very, very important and very useful when I will hopefully eventually need to do something a little bit deeper. But a lot of the business needs at the moment are very much simple efficiencies that can be gained through using the tools that are available in the enterprise suites that they're involved in and connected to be able to try and get back to a point where they are doing their job and they're doing the job that they'll be employed to do versus stacks of admin that comes with the job, if that makes sense. Yeah, that's where I see things at the moment.
Yeah, that's so interesting because it's like getting people to a stage, isn't it, where AI just becomes electricity. We're not thinking about it. We're just using it in the flow of our work.
Yeah.
But that's quite difficult to get to that stage. And I know that, you have this deep technical understanding, starting off with machine learning and looking at lots of pictures of cats and things like that. But since then, you've started to make this into sort of more of a human-led thing rather than just, we're not just looking at the technical side, but you have to understand the technical side somehow to really be able to give confidence, I think, to people who are learning from you, and certainly organizations that are putting this in your hands, because you've got to understand the capabilities of it, haven't you? So that you can really see the risks, because it's not straightforward. I'm sure we'll come back to some of that. I've alluded to it already, but this is something that really fascinates me. What drew you here, Jonny? You had a career in creative production, you did the degree, and now you're doing this, which I know was your passion from the start. This is something you saw as the vision. But what was the moment, or the question perhaps, that pulled you into this direction?
Well, I think probably stepping back maybe 16, 17 years ago, when I finished college, I wanted to go to university and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew it was between two things. It was either business, which I really enjoyed, and computer science. So I went back and forth the decisions on that, but the decision was sort of made for me at that time because you needed quite a high qualification in maths for computer science, and I wasn't that great at maths, so not to a standard of that was needed at the time.
Yeah,
So I made the decision to go down.
physics level, that
Yeah,
sort of physics
yeah,
level. Yeah.
basically, yeah. So I went down the route of business, which I really enjoyed. So that was my first degree, my bachelor's degree, which I did business in. And I gradually went through different career paths. Started off as a client-facing account executive, working my way up to senior account management. And then I started to move into the operations arena to manage production teams and manage teams of operators doing various different things, mainly in the CGI production space. And as I sort of went on that journey, all the way through it, I was always interested in the data of what I could get hold of, playing around lots in Microsoft Excel and getting quite proficient in that tool. And it was in my last position where I came to sort of like quite a realization that I actually enjoyed being in the data and understanding the stories behind those data and presenting that data back in a really understandable way to various audiences, be that high level C-suite individuals or even just your colleagues next to you or your peers. I started to become less interested in the operational aspects of keeping things going out the door and keeping the teams happy versus the data side of things. So that's where I made the career jump, along with probably, you could call it a turning 40 and having a midlife crisis of just dropping everything and saying, I need to do this now. I've got my business degree, I enjoyed that. I've still got that itch surrounding the computer science arena. And this obviously wasn't computer science what I did, because that's more development and building applications and bits and pieces. This was more getting to coding, understand the technical side of things, and it was very, very interesting to jump into a scientific field for the first time and have to think and write scientifically in reports. So that was very interesting. So yeah, to answer your question, I think that was my journey, really, is a bit of a realization when I turned 40 of I can see the way that things are going and I can see how important AI and data analysis and all that side of things is for the future of not just my own professional, progression, but also what we can do for businesses, especially local businesses in the region.
Well, that's very noble quest. I mean, that's fantastic. That journey makes a lot of sense. And you've had lots of time to think about it, and I'm sure you've got lots of fans who are waiting to see what you will create in this role. So, what do you want to create in this role? If you were to look ahead a couple of years, Johnny, what would the piece of work that you're proud of, what would it actually look like?
I think I could probably speak to that at a business level and maybe a personal level as well. From a business perspective, obviously jumping in and starting with the 1 point is going to be fantastic for that, because I'll be able to be connected to lots of great clients that the business has already got in their portfolio, and being able to connect to those clients, help them understand their readiness for AI, because that's a key concept. Is that there's a lot of hype surrounding AI, and I think people and business leaders especially want AI in their business as soon as possible, be that seeing a competitor playing around with it, or just simply reading the news and seeing what they want, and seeing something that's interesting and wanting to get that into the business. But in essence, the AI side of things is the shiny tool. What is more important is the data foundations, and being able to make sure that you've got the infrastructure, you have a client relationship management tool, you have an ERP tool, and all of those things that are really needed to get that data and get that customer data and operational data. That's really key. And I think it's what's exciting to me, and what I want to build is really those relationships to start with, and help clients understand what they can do, what they can't do maybe at this moment in time, and help them on their journey, and build them a roadmap. And that's before we even look at the tools, really. It's about building that roadmap to, right, okay, on a readiness assessment, you're amber. So you're nearly there, and we can tweak this and we can tweak that, and we can help you with this.
Yeah, because sorry to interrupt you there, but data is sort of like it's the big scary thing in the cupboard, isn't it?
Yeah,
And people daren't open the cupboard because of what they're going to find in there. It's going to be a mess. There's going to be lots of data, but it probably isn't going to neatly just transfer over to the AI system.
no, that's true. And it's if it does, you're very lucky. And I would say it's probably very normal to have some areas where the data isn't clean, the data isn't ready, especially if you're an organisation that has connected to third-party tools. So if you're an organisation that's kept everything in, let's say, for example, the Microsoft Enterprise Suite, everything's done in Microsoft, you don't have any third-party tools that you're connected to, then you're probably in a really good place to be able to extract all that data and play around with it and combine it and do what you need to do. That'd be a really ideal situation, but probably not the case, because companies, do rely on all types of solutions around them that aren't just within the Microsoft suite.
Yeah, and it's not just that, is it? I mean, it's also that from the businesses that I'm aware of, there might well be a Microsoft 365 business, but they may not have put everything into
No,
it.
no, it's exactly it.
There'll be spreadsheets sitting around the company and in people's hard drives and stuff, and there'll be all sorts of free fields that they've filled out where they're not structured. That gets messy, doesn't it?
It does get messy, yeah, and you could have used all of the Microsoft tools, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, to create, store all of this knowledge and data. But to your point, it could be on people's desktops. It could, if it's not in the cloud, and then even if it is in the cloud, it'll be in very inconsistent formats between people who have, created those documents. So yeah, you're right. The data in the cupboard is the scary part. It's the scary beast of the process, and it's what a lot of companies are. As soon as you start to talk about, okay, you might not be quite there, we need to look at your data. That's when people start to get nervous, think about the timescales, think about the cost involved. But the reality is that without the data foundations, if you progress onto the AI side of things, it's just going to become expensive experimentation for you, really, and
Yeah.
not something where you can really advance and open the world as such.
Yeah, and a previous guest, Kate Madison Greenwell, she said something very similar in the sense that her experience in change management projects is that, doing any sort of transformation or any kind of change really with clients, they ranged. I mean, she was talking about sizes. This is quite helpful, I think, to understand the size that we're talking about, that you're talking about. She was talking about from maybe 1,000 to kind of like 5 or 10,000 employees. And she was saying that quite often the data just isn't ready,
No.
and it's something that the company is really keen to rush towards getting done because well, you can understand why. And anybody who's sat in the boardroom and heard the CEO saying, "Well, what's that got to do with anything?" Somebody just sort it, set up a cross-functional project, and everybody can sort the data out.
Yeah,
It's not quite that simple, is it?
it's not that simple. No, no, it's not that easy at all. There's a lot of work that needs to happen in the background, and I think it's a fine balance between as an individual who's going to be talking to clients and wanting to sell the prospect of working with them from an AI perspective, that it's not too much doom and gloom.
Okay, well, in that case, let's talk about the opportunities because I think you're right. We don't want to doom and gloom it because it is a challenge. The data is a challenge, but it's one that has to be met. And I think the smartest companies are going to invest in that.
Yes,
So, and they're going to be the ones that are ahead, while the others look as though they're ahead, but actually they're all going to be falling over a bit later on when things break, because inevitably they will if their data isn't connected and their data isn't, robust, I suppose. So, where do you see the biggest opportunities, particularly for the kinds of businesses that really don't often feature in the big AI conversations? I'm not talking about the massive frontier firms now. I'm talking about some of these companies that are on your list, SMBs and so forth.
I think the biggest opportunity at the moment is agentic AI, and that's really where things can get very interesting. So the agentic AI is basically building an agent using just prompts. There's no particular coding involved in it. It's actually no code really, which is fantastic for people that from a technical background, and having knowledge bases which you can then link an agent to, which can be easily done in the Microsoft suite in Copilot. And obviously, Copilot does vary in different subscriptions. The basic one probably gives you less opportunity to connect more information to your agents, but you still can build an agent. They allow you to chat. They allow you to go off and into a meeting and do some tasks whilst you're in the meeting. So they're just a few examples of what you can do with agents, and it gets more complicated from there on in. But in the basic principle is you can set up an agent who has a role, and that might be a customer onboarding agent, it may be a customer service agent. You set the role, you set the parameters of what they do in their role, and you set the guidelines, the voice, the tone, the knowledge, and that is more from a chat perspective. So that could be external facing, or it could just be an internal tool. I created one recently, which was basically just an agent to help me understand Power BI, Microsoft Power BI, a little bit better. And I basically set it up to be a tutor. I asked it to be a tutor for a new student. So that was very interesting, and that's been fantastic to just chat with. And it knows my background, it knows the details because I've set that up in the actual agent. Whereas if you was to use a standard chatbot, let's say ChatGPT or Claude, you've got security concerns there because your data obviously is being shared externally with those companies, and you have to build a lot of background and understanding, which you can do sort of like once with some of those LLMs, but you in Copilot and the Microsoft environment, everything's secure, everything's safe, and it does use the frontier models in the background to be able to power the agents, but it's all secure, locked down, and safe, and tested.
Like everybody who's sort of into this area of AI quite a lot, I use quite a few of these different
Yeah,
models, and so I'm around to different providers, different LLMs, from Anthropic through to the others. a lot. I better mention them all, hadn't I, quickly? So we've got Google Gemini, just in case people are wondering what I'm using. I'm using Google Gemini. I use Anthropic's Claude and for both chat and co-work. I don't use code because I can't code. And I did use ChatGPT a lot. In fact, I wrote a book on that, but I don't use it much now. I only use only got a free version of that now. And Perplexity is great, but I have to say I only use the free version of Perplexity.
Yeah.
And of course I've got Copilot because I've got to have my Microsoft because clients use it a lot, so I need to be able to use it and know how it works. So that's quite enough for me at the moment. And so if I run out, although it is annoying, if I run out on one like Claude, I can just ask it to summarize. I often ask it to summarize where we are, and then I take it off to a new chat summarize. So you have very kindly put together a video walkthrough of how you can set up an agent on Microsoft, haven't you? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, please? Because I'm going to make that the resource for everybody so that they know that this week's resource, everyone, is going to be Jonny Winn's walkthrough of how to build an agent or looking at agents on Microsoft platform. So I will walk through it with you on the solo audio, but I will not have actually put this together. You'll have a complete expert doing this.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you for the expert title. So yeah, I wanted to test Copilot a little bit more. At university, I was very much in raw coding throughout the whole master's program. So I've started to use Copilot Studio, and that is a little bit of a step up from the basic Copilot. You get it with the enterprise licensing, and what you get in that is, and you can do actually in Copilot. So in Copilot itself, you can build agents, and when you build those agents, those agents are available to you. If you want to build an agent that you then want to share with a client, or you want to then use within your organization and allow others to use it, you build it in a very similar way, but then it needs approval through certain people to be able to release it. For testing purposes, I've used Claude to create a fake company, which is called Acme Solutions Limited, a little nod there to the old cartoons. And that's basically created a customer onboarding guide for Acme Solutions Limited. So that's generated a PDF document that's got all of the details of how we onboard a client. And then I have basically used the agent builder template to create an agent, and that's simply, like I've mentioned previously, telling the agent what its role is, what it does, but more interestingly, connecting the knowledge base, which is this PDF document. So in the actual demo that I've done, I show it without the knowledge and with the knowledge, and you can basically see straight away that you can ask it a question once it's created without the knowledge, and it'll just basically give you a default response of, that's not in a knowledge base that I have, please contact customer services on this number.
That's the triage, isn't it? The triage element, which is really nice to be able to rely on it to do that.
Yeah,
Instead of it making something up.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. I think that's the worst thing is if you very much making sure that you know in the prompt or give it in the prompt. Don't just make anything up. If you don't know the answer, then triage. And then connecting it to the knowledge base and then asking it the same question and being able to see how it knows exactly and recounts what it is. But also then asking for, do you need help with this? Or the next step is this. So it's that sort of like conversational piece. So yeah, it's a client onboarding agent. You act as a new client. You use the chatbot, the onboarding chatbot, and go through the motions of setting up your account. And there's a little bit of a flavour in there of what you can do to edit the responses. So I'm not too keen on emojis all the time, so there's a lot of emojis in some responses. So I think they can be a bit unprofessional sometimes. So I've removed those. And
they can look a bit, can't they?
Yeah.
Huggy man.
Yeah, huggy man and the fires and all sorts of things.
Yeah, that's right.
The green tick and the red cross is a classic of
it is, and the arrows, and the rockets. Yes, quite.
And the rockets. Yeah, absolutely. So,
but Johnny, why you just mentioned that? It's funny. Sorry to go off on one here, but that just puts me back in mind. The great impacts on our society have been in our lifetime. I hope you don't mind me saying in yours as well, perhaps. But the internet revolution.
Yeah.
And and AI, obviously. And I can remember, I'm a bit ahead of you, as you know, and I can remember I was working in a college at the time as a law tutor, and I was very fortunate to be able to help my students. Well, help them, that's a laugh. I was actually just overseeing that they weren't, running off with the computers possibly. But we'd got a big budget from Europe to be able to build an ICT unit. And so they were all these students, every one of them, the boys. None of the girls wanted to join in. I don't know why that is. It's annoying to me now, but this was a long time ago. And just let them get on with it. And we had all those little emojis of builders on websites that hadn't been constructed yet. And it would say under construction, and there'd be a builder with his bottom hanging out of the trousers at the, at the back. And it was so unprofessional, but people did it all the time, and it was only really your blue chip companies that weren't doing that.
Yeah,
I think how far we've come now that we thought that was an amazing revolution at the time, and of course it was, not the emojis,
yeah,
but the internet revolution. But now here we are, and we're looking at something similar that we're going through again, in the sense that we are being asked to do something completely new, very different. We're guinea pigs in all of this. And the thing that's standing out to me is this similarity where you are saying, hang on, it's time to reject some of these emojis. That reminds me, we've gone through over the last 2 years, we've gone through that because at one time, don't you remember, the emojis were amazing. We were like, yes, I've got emojis and everything. And so it's just taken a couple of years for us to become like, oh, I don't want emojis. I'm far too sophisticated for that. And I quite agree with you. I'm exactly the same. I take them out of everything. The bane of my life is the M dash,
oh, yeah,
but it is for most people.
yeah.
Yeah. So I did interrupt you. I'm sorry about that, but I've got another burning question that I want to go on to
Please.
because it kind of leads to it. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So, because it's looking further ahead to the society that we're creating, because I've just alluded to that in the sense that we've gone through these two major transformational changes as human beings on our society, and they have had a massive effect. There's been a massive change in the jobs that people have, the kind of information that we are exposed to. Our political systems have changed as a result, and masses more things that it's impacted. What when you look further ahead, what does the ideal society look like that's AI driven to you?
God, that's a really good question. I think the perfect or the idealistic place where society could be is having AI powered lives that bring you back to being human. I think that's really important because lots of us really are quite busy fools at the moment. Is the sense that we've got massive amounts of life admin, business admin, and using AI in the right ways, and almost not from a complete ownership perspective, but just letting go of some things that we've had to do ourselves, I think is really key. And that, from a business perspective, will be, it'd look like, creating PowerPoint presentations from scratch, that type of thing, where you can now easily prompt using PowerPoint in Copilot in PowerPoint, or tools like Gamma, which I found really useful, to give it a bit of a prompt of what you want to build. And even if you don't want to know how to do that, asking another LLM like Claude to build a PowerPoint Copilot prompt to be able to create
Yes.
something. So just little examples like that where we can sort of like advance things. But yeah, I think being able to get time back, both professionally and personally, I think is really important. Really important. And
Yes.
that's where I think we could be.
Yeah, getting time back. I know you'd like to spend more time with your family, and I was looking today because you and I we communicate over WhatsApp quite regularly, and I see the photograph, and I saw the photograph today for the first time properly, and it was of you and your family, and you look so happy, and it was just such a genuinely lovely photograph.
Okay.
And I think who wouldn't want to spend time with their family when you see a lovely photograph like that? I think that you've expressed something that most human beings would feel innately inside them, they want more time for the precious things,
Yeah,
the things you can't get back if they've gone, and that's it. The moment's gone because you were too busy at your desk. The old saying, nobody ever said on their deathbed, I wish I'd spent more time in the office.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Jonny Winn. It has been amazing. I shall be going through how to build these agents for yourself. I think it's going to be an excellent solo audio that I'll put out on this channel as usual, and it will accompany this week's podcast with Jonny and also the article that I'm going to produce. So until then, I shall say goodbye, and as usual, take care and stay sovereign.